Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gautama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Ka. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and I'm going to be helping you build up your loving kindness meditation practice. This is the fourth part of a four-part series where I've been doing here at the beginning of the group learning program to be able to help students build up first their breathing mindfulness meditation practice and now the loving kindness meditation. So just like we've been doing over the last couple of sessions, I'm going to guide you guys in a loving kindness meditation session, and then I'll open up to any and all questions that you have about the path to enlightenment or loving kindness meditation or anything you'd like to discuss. Next week on Wednesday, I'll be starting a four-part series on Buddhist chanting, teaching students how to actually do the chanting. So I'll be guiding you guys in that through the next four classes on Wednesday. And then on this Sunday, we're in chapter 4 of our book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. Chapter 4 is titled The Four Noble Truths, Establishing Right View. This is where you're going to learn the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward in a way that you can independently verify and come to the truth to understanding how to have this breakthrough and be able to really work towards the development of the mind and getting closer and closer to enlightenment. So welcome to all of you, whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly. If you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I do loving kindness meditation is I start out with some chanting to ease us into the meditation, which you guys are welcome to join along in. You'll see these chants on our website by going to buddhadailywisdom.com. There's a link there that says free books, and then down towards the bottom, you'll see the daily chanting sheet. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance for breathing mindfulness meditation, and there'll be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just meditating together doing breathing mindfulness meditation. Then I'm going to come back in with some guidance for loving kindness meditation. We'll go back to the breathing mindfulness and then come out of the meditation with the chanting. It's kind of like a loving kindness sandwich with loving kindness in the middle. The lettuce and tomato is the breathing mindfulness meditation, and then the bread holding it all together is the chanting. So you can take a position either seated, lying, or standing. These work really well with loving kindness meditation. There is a walking position, but we tend to not do the loving kindness in that position. So take whatever position you're comfortable with, and I'll start off with the chanting, which again, you're welcome to join in on, and then we'll come back in with the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Bhutang Mahakewanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakevata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakevato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa สะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามะสติสัตตาตวามนุสนังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind focused on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thoughts, label them, judge them, analyze them, or even try to figure out where they're coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May Mom and Dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have harmed me be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanhang Abhivateyami Savakhato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti Piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vichacharanang Sammuno Sakhato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusarang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see you in class today, whether you're joining on Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or whether you're listening to this on the replay. Welcome to everyone. If there's any questions that you guys have related to either loving kindness meditation or any other aspect of the path to enlightenment, even your own personal struggles or challenges or obstacles that you're facing, feel free to ask those questions. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and unmute your mic and ask any questions that you like. So do you guys have any questions at all that you would like to ask? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. Oh, okay, there we go. It looks like Ted or Kristen has a question. So go ahead, guys.
David, I have a question. Good morning, good evening. When we're breathing, of course, I try to instinctively try to follow your guidance with the breath and the exhale, but it tends to make me go beyond my normal breathing. I have to take a much deeper breath, and even with the loving kindness. But that's I'm just wondering if I'm supposed to be trying to take a little bit deeper of a breath, inhale, as opposed to fall into my natural rhythm of breathing. I guess that's the one question.
Sure. One of the things that I noticed when I first got into this path is that my breathing was very shallow, and it needed to slow down because with the mind fixated to the breath and the breath being very shallow, then that rapid breath, the mind continued to stay very active and restless. So what I noticed is when I slowed the breath down with the mind fixated to that, it slowed the mind down. So you're probably going to need to do some work to train the body and the mind to be able to breathe a bit slower and more gradual. And that's where in the guidance I say develop a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. I'm describing the ideal breath, and then you need to kind of work your way towards that. Where when I say a natural breath, sometimes people think that means breathe the same way you're breathing now, which isn't necessarily the case. So what I mean by that is I'm describing this really slow, steady, gradual breath in and out. And that's what you would ultimately like to develop and get to the point where it's not controlled, it's not forced. But on your way to get there, you're going to have to really do some conscious training of the body and the mind to be able to get it there. And I used to do this outside of meditation. I would just sit on my bed. You could sit anywhere, but I used to sit on my bed because I was in my room. And I would just, take nice, slow breaths with my eyes open. I would just kind of get used to breathing slow because I wasn't used to that. And I had to get the mind prepared to be able to understand, you don't have to do all this real quick, shallow breathing. You can take nice, slow, steady breaths, and that's okay. There was a little bit of a fear of death in there because when I would get to the gap between the breaths, I would kind of have a little bit of fear, like, oh my goodness, I'm not breathing. Am I going to die? So it helped with that too. So I worked with the breath for several days. It probably wasn't more than a week or so that I had it down. But then I even still need to be working with it in the meditation too. Even though I kind of did this training for a week or so outside of meditation to get to the point where I could then start combining it with the training of the mind, I noticed even for a couple of years during meditation, my breath wasn't quite as slow as it ultimately became as I trained my mind more and more. So this is something that you would like to pay attention to, and you're going to kind of need a combination of training outside of meditation, training in meditation as well, and then just kind of get used to more of a gradual, slow breath. And you'll see that boils over into your day-to-day life too. Because if we're breathing really shallow in day-to-day life, it keeps the mind, almost like a racehorse, like, so if you just calm your breath down, it'll calm down all of these things for your meditation and then outside of meditation too. Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, it looks like Paul has a question as well, maybe more than one.
I had to unmute, sorry, David. In my previous meditation training, the golden rule was always, it must be effortless. Everything you do during meditation must be effortless. So the example that Ted was saying about breathing and, trying to breathe a certain way and then trying to stay focused on the breath. These were no-nos. This effort, there should be no effort. Ideally, that should be the goal. Is that true of your teachings as well?
When you get to the point that you've established your breath properly, yeah, it's effortless. But everything on your way to enlightenment, there's going to be effort involved. That's why on the Eightfold Path, you have right effort. You can't just slip your way into enlightenment or stumble your way into enlightenment. You're going to need to apply work and effort and energy and dedication and diligence towards growing and developing the mind and making your way towards enlightenment. So the ultimate goal, is to get to the point where the meditation is effortless. But in order to get to that point, you're going to have to put in some effort to get to that point where it is effortless. And it's the same thing about all aspects of cultivating the mind, not just in meditation, but in your day-to-day life, learning how to, for example, practice right speech. That's really challenging for people to practice, especially with the cravings in their mind and stuff, to get rid of harsh speech and stuff like that. That's really challenging. So there's effort and energy that's put into getting your practice up to the point where you're practicing right speech. But then once you're there, it's effortless. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you're practicing the teachings effortlessly, but you're going to need to put in effort and dedication to get there.
Okay. Another thing I have to change from all those years of doing it a certain way. Second part was when I am focused, ideally, which is a short spurt because I'm usually thinking of something that I have to let go of. And so, but when I'm aware of this sound in the back, in my head, and it almost sounds like heat bugs. It's like a buzzing, like, heat bugs, like in the summertime. It's a sound like that when I am focused on my breathing, I can hear that. I'm aware of that sound. Is that common?
Yeah, the Buddha even talks about this. Some people describe it as like a ringing in the ears. The Buddha describes it as divine sounds. And what people describe this as is like, they say that as your mind is awakening and you're gaining more and more of a higher consciousness, that you become aware of the things around you more readily. And one of the things that you become aware of is this higher frequency of beings in the heavenly realm. And that's what people say that buzzing or that ringing in the ears is. And you'll notice this, of course, it's impermanent, just like everything else, but you'll notice this more when the things around you are quiet. Like while you're meditating, you'll notice it, or while you're falling asleep at night, you might notice it. And it can become really strong at certain times, but eventually you just kind of get used to it, that it's there, and you understand that it's impermanent and it doesn't affect you in any way, but you just know that that's what's going on. And you'll see this described in the teachings of the Buddha as divine sounds.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm just going to check around. Oh, looks like Ted has another question, or maybe Kristen.
David, it's funny that you mentioned quietness or silence during meditation. We have a dog downstairs that we started our day at 6:30 with it barking. And as we were meditating, the dog fired up again. And man, I tell you, to quell that spike of anger, and I'm sure it falls into a category, is difficult, and right speech, right action, all of those I would have violated for sure if I carried through with my feeling at that time. I don't know why I brought that up. I just, it was, made me think of that quiet time during meditation.
Yeah, so as you probably know, this is from the mind having a craving for silence. And now when you have sound, which your mind needs to understand the sound is impermanent, but with the mind craving permanence, and you hear the sound of the dog barking, that's where the anger is arising, because the mind's not getting what it wants. It's not getting that central desire fulfilled. So you just need to remind yourself when the dog's barking that this is impermanent, just like the quietness when you're meditating in some situations, that's impermanent too. The sound that the dog's making, that's impermanent as well. And these things are going to happen. So you got to get rid of that craving for the environment to be a certain way. I've actually seen monks in Thailand sitting on a large engine compartment of a boat. This boat can hold maybe 300 to 500 people, and they're sitting on this rumbling engine compartment with it, vibrating, and the diesel fumes coming out, and the boat rocking side to side, and the people, kind of gawking at the tourist sites. And there's a monk sitting there trying to meditate and train his mind. This is one of the ways that you can challenge your mind, is in these situations. So when you see that your mind's repulsed by something and you're pushing it away, the more you're exposed to that situation, the better. So that if I could talk to your dog, I would say, please bark more while Ted's meditating. This is going to be really helpful to Ted. And, this is actually really helpful for you to be in that situation. So what you might decide to do, because I'm sure you can find this nowadays with modern technology, is expose the mind to this, is actually get some YouTube videos or sound files of dogs barking, and then meditate while that's going on. Have that playing so that you can get to the point where sometimes you have dog barking, sometimes you don't, or maybe your dog does it enough that you don't need to get the audio. But this is what's going to help you, is that we oftentimes think that pushing this away, or maybe yelling or hollering or scaring the dog, that's going to like fix the problem. But quieting the dog isn't going to fix the problem. What's going to fix this is eliminating the cause of it, and the cause of it is the craving. So if you can put the mind in the situation and desensitize it, then this is what's going to produce the benefit for you to get rid of that craving. So now, whether the dog's barking or the dog's not barking, you can just maintain your calmness and composure regardless. So you might decide to expose the mind to some of this if you feel like you need to do that at different times. If your dog's doing it, great. But if there's some other ways you can induce it, like through an audio file, this would be really helpful for you. Okay, it looks like Paul has another question. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, on that same topic, quiet. Of course, I have a dog too, and he barks, and it bothers me too. But what's even harder is I can overhear conversations, like my daughter and my wife talking about something, and I have a hard time not following the conversation. Like I can hear it in the distance, and because it's so quiet, I can actually listen in on their conversation. What I have been doing, and probably is not, ultimately good, is, earplugs, sound noise canceling, which helps, to quiet things. But of course, that's probably a bad habit in the long term. But that's how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's not going to solve the problem, because the underlying problem is the craving, and the mind is holding on to this conversation. So if that's what you're doing now, okay, but I wouldn't suggest that. I would suggest easing away from that. And it might mean that, for several meditations over the next several months, your mind is bouncing around sometimes when they're talking. If they're talking every single meditation and you're not getting any good quality meditation whatsoever, then you probably need to do something here or there occasionally to just be sure you're getting some decent meditation. But you're going to need to expose the mind to this, because the earplugs or the noise canceling headphones, that's not solving the actual problem. That's actually allowing it to stay in place, because it's the craving in the mind that the mind is going to the conversation. One of the ways to think about this is, I heard a story one time of a monk leading a meditation retreat. Here in Thailand, things are pretty open. It's like open air. You're kind of maybe under a pavilion during a meditation retreat. And the students were meditating at nighttime, and there was the cicadas. In Thailand, there's lots of cicadas, lots of loud noises coming from the jungle and the forest. And after the meditation, with all these cicadas, were just so loud, one of the students was commenting about how their meditation went, because the monk asked them, like, how was your meditation? And the one student was like, oh, the cicadas were really bothering me. And the monk said, well, did the cicadas come and bother you, or did you go to the cicadas? Right? Her mind, this was a female apparently, her mind went to the cicadas. So it's not that the conversation of your wife and your daughter is coming to you and invading you, or it's not like Ted's dog is coming and invading him. It's that your mind is going to the conversation. Your mind is going to the dog barking. And that's where you need to get really good at restraining the mind and pulling it back and not allowing it to do that. Where you'll be aware that those things are happening. Like when you're in meditation and you hear a dog bark, you're aware that it's happened, but then you just bring your mind and keep it focused on the breath. Or you're aware they're having a conversation in another part of the house, but you just bring your mind back to the breath and focus on the breath. And this is where you get control and discipline of the mind. Whereas if you're wearing those noise canceling things, it's not allowing your mind to get the opportunity to be tugged and pulled, so you don't get a chance to yank it back and restrain it back to letting go of that thing.
Funny you mentioned the cicadas, because I was living in Maryland when that cycle, that 7-year cycle came, and I heard cicadas for the longest time, and that's actually that's the sound. A good analogy of what I hear in my mind when I am really focused on my breath, I can hear this like cicada-like sound in my head. And yeah, then on the thing about conversations, that's the toughest one, because like the dog barking it comes and goes, but there's nothing to it, right? It's just noise. But the problem with conversation is you get drawn into it, like you're hearing things, and if you were not meditating, you'd probably have something to say about what's being talked about. It could actually be talking about you, and the point is it draws you in a lot more. But I shouldn't be trying to get into a place where I can't hear that stuff. Like I got to keep exposing myself to that, as challenging as it is. Is that how you would recommend?
Yeah, you're going to experience these things. It's going to challenge your mind, but the only reason why it's challenging is because the mind is undisciplined. So there's going to be plenty of challenges between now and enlightenment. And each time you face one of these challenges, you keep working to train your mind and discipline your mind. So like if I was in that environment and your family was talking, I wouldn't have any issues meditating there. But that's because I've trained my mind in going into a lot of different environments and made sure that my mind can be focused and concentrated. Your mind right now is having challenges with that, but that challenge is a good challenge. Sometimes when we experience challenges, we want to run away from them. And that's what the mind tends to do because it craves that permanent comfort. Any kind of challenge is like, oh, this is too hard, I don't want to do this. But what the Buddha teaches you, and I teach as well, and I agree with, is to not shrink back from that struggle. Because that struggle and that challenge that your mind is having, that's opportunity for growth. If you would happen to run away from this challenge or any other challenge and putting on the noise canceling headphones or the earplugs, this is like running away from it. This is not allowing the mind to develop the discipline. If we shrink back from the struggle, then the mind never gets the opportunity to cultivate the wisdom that it needs to overcome that obstacle or overcome that challenge. So you would like to turn around and walk towards it. So that's why, like for Ted, since he knows that his mind becomes discontent when he hears dog barking, that's why I say, like, let's walk towards this. Let's not run away from it. Let's actually put on some audio of dogs barking and then get trained to meditate during that period of time. And that's walking towards the challenge, towards the struggle. And then you do that for however many times, and eventually the mind's going to let that go and you feel so liberated. And that's where the concentration and the focus is really coming from, that you're not just challenging the mind just for the sake of challenging it. You're challenging it to accomplish an actual goal, which is to eliminate its cravings. Because as long as it has these cravings in there, the mind's going to keep tugging and pulling in all these different directions. And as you're getting rid of these cravings, that's where the liberation and the freedom and the peace and the joy and the concentration and focus comes into the mind more and more. But if we avoid the confrontation of these challenging situations, then the mind never gets the opportunity to grow and develop and become liberated of those cravings.
So in your case, in those situations where there's conversation in the background that could be interesting to you if you weren't meditating, do you still hear it, but it doesn't register, or does it sort of white out? Like, do you not hear it anymore, or you hear it, but it doesn't register?
I hear it and I know that it's going on, but I stay focused on the breath. So it's just like hearing, any other sound. You know that the sound's there, but you don't give it any attention. You just focus on the breath.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Ted, I think you've raised your hand again, or is that up from last time? Yeah, okay.
No, two things. One, please don't have a talk with the dog and tell it to bark more. And Kristen has a question for you.
Can you hear me okay, Mr. Smith?
I can hear you a little bit, but the microphone's going in and out. I think that's Zoom that does that.
Yeah. Okay, we'll switch spots. So a few weeks ago, I had mentioned that I had this attachment, or I have an attachment to my mat, my yoga mat. And just this conversation just made me think of it. Was just this week, a woman had placed her foot on my mat during during class, and immediately I thought, oh, here we go, like, and my mind immediately went to that, oh shoot, foot's on my mat, and I was like, oh, my mind got a little rattled. But then I remembered what you said, that I should have, like, give my mat to people and share it and, like, let people step on it. And that thought went through my mind, and it actually brought me to, like, this is impermanence, and it became okay instead of it taking me to a place. And then I almost at the end of it wanted to, like, just touch her foot and say thank you for, like, placing it there, because it was that moment of, like, okay, this is, like, how am I going to handle this? And it was kind of interesting. Like, it wasn't immediate. It didn't just, like, not even, it was still there. But it didn't go to, like, I wanted to teach her something and like show her the way, of, like, that's just not the right thing to do. Like, at that point it was like, oh, it doesn't really matter. And it was just kind of cool that it didn't bother me. So that was just, like, a nice thing. And also the dog barking today was a little different. Like, I didn't get mad at the dog, but for a moment it was just a sound. It was just sound. It was just a dog, like, this, just a noise. But it then did become a little personal over time, because then I thought it was going on for a really long time. And then the story started with, like, how is the neighbor not, like, keeping the dog from barking? And so then my mind did kind of go a little farther than I'd like. But it was just like I noticed it. And this conversation's been really helpful, just hearing about how we all struggle with that. And it's like, it's a challenge and it's work, and it's not going to happen immediately. And, like, I'm okay with that.
Good. Yeah.
Just keep working on it.
Yeah, this is the gradual training, the gradual practice, and the gradual progress. And each time when you see it's getting better, you can see, like, wow, this is the truth. These teachings actually work. Like, I see that I had central desire. I was craving things to be a certain way. I got angry the first time and judgmental, and my conceit arose. And then the second time when it just happened, like, wow, none of that stuff happened. It was less. It still wasn't where you'd ultimately like to be, but it was less. So you see that the mind let go of some of that craving. And now each time this occurs, it'll get better and better for you. And that's why, like, you can sit back and wait for people to step on your mat, because it's going to happen over time. Or if you would like to confront these things head on, that's why I suggest, like, put your mat down and be like, hey guys, come over here and step on my mat. I would like, to see how many people I can fit on my mat. Just make it a game, right? Like, how many people can fit on my mat? I'd like to see this. I'd like to test this out. Because that's the way you confront it head on. Because if you can let go of those kinds of cravings, because those are the simple ones, it'll make all the harder ones that much easier. So if you confront these things and walk towards the struggle, it'll make all the others so easy. And then when you see this methodology works, then you'll just repeat that with each individual craving. And in modern psychology, they refer to this as exposure therapy. They actually do it in modern psychology. They expose the mind to these things. Like, if they know someone's afraid of spiders or something like this, they expose you to it so that you can get rid of your phobia, right? It's like the same thing we're teaching, but they're teaching it through modern psychology. So as you do these, and each one gets better and better, and your mind starts letting go of these cravings, you're going to start seeing your mind performing better and better and better and better. And that's why it almost becomes like a fun game to figure out, like, what are my cravings and what do I need to do in order to, like, really address them and expose the mind to these things. And then, like, each one that you do, it's like freeing the mind more and more. And it's really quite fun and quite enjoyable. It can be a little bit painful sometimes, but once you get going with it and you see how much more concentration and focus and memory and clarity of mind that you get, how much better you're sleeping each night, and how much better you're getting along with the people around you, and you start seeing all these benefits, you'll probably be looking at, like, where's my attachments? What do I need to let go of next? So I would encourage you guys to really put your mind in these situations, because that's what's going to ultimately help you to get rid of these cravings and get the benefits that you're looking for.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, let me look at Facebook and YouTube one more time, see if we have anything there. I don't see anything. So What I'll do then is just end by thanking all of you guys for joining, whether you're joining online or you're joining through the replay or any of those kinds of things. Thank you all for being interested in learning the teachings of the Buddha. As I mentioned, next week we're going to start our 4-part series on Buddhist chanting. Then on Sunday, we're going to be in chapter 4 of our book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. That's where you're going to be able to have this breakthrough to understanding what's causing these discontent feelings so that then you can skillfully work with them and eliminate them. So over the next 2 Sundays, I'll be teaching you the entire Eightfold Path, which is the core central teaching of the Buddha. As you guys need help, you're always welcome to reach out through classes, through the Facebook group, through sending private messages or scheduling personal guidance. So perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Be well, take care. See you next time. Sawadee ka.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.